So Robert Mueller is looking at Trump's Twitter. And it's not the worst idea. My only issue is, if you've been on Twitter, you know how easy it is to get distracted, right? Mueller's going to log on to investigate Trump, and the next thing you know, he'll be watching videos of dogs dancing to Drake, which, by the way, is a real thing. I've watched that 300 times.
Good reason. Daily Show host Trevor Noah teased special counsel Robert Mueller this week about investigating the president's tweets. Noah and his team are up for 3 Emmy Awards this year, including Outstanding Variety Talk Series. It's the comedian's first nomination in that category since taking over the reins from Jon Stewart in 2015.
Now the writers of The Daily Show are out with a new book inspired by President Trump's tweets. It is called The Donald J. Trump Presidential Twitter Library. The book is based on the show's successful pop-up library that the Huffington Post describes as the most impressive satire of the current administration to date. That is something. Trevor Noah is here, a television event. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, everyone.
The book is elegant yet hilarious.
Thank you.
It is one of the first attempts we've seen to look at this presidency almost through a historical lens,
right.
I'd say. My question to you is, do you think this crazy moment we're in is passing crazy or permanent crazy?
Well, I think if you look at Donald Trump, and that's what helped us look at the tweets in context, you have to think of the man and how consistent he's been. And one thing that we've known about Donald Trump is that, like a star, he burns bright and he burns for much longer than a human will expect him to burn.
Right.
And so it always feels like the crazy is going to pass, but this has been what people have said for, the past 3 years?
Sustained.
People said it wouldn't go through to the election. People said it wouldn't go beyond the election. People said it wouldn't go into his first year or his second year. And so we've come to realize that this is the world we live in now. This is the world that we share with Donald J. Trump. And as you see every single day, there's a new story to talk about, oftentimes sparked by his tweets.
We get bombarded with these tweets. What do you see when you put them all together in a book?
Well, you see, that's what's great about the book. So we sat down at the Daily Show and we said, we can't look at each tweet individually. It doesn't tell you a story. If you wake up every morning and you look at a Trump tweet, like Marco Rubio said, you'll go crazy. And so when you put the tweets in context, it gives you a pattern. So it gives you a pattern on how Trump creates the smallest benign things, like how he creates nicknames for his political enemies. It also tells you how much he hates Diet Coke, more than Hillary, you'll be surprised to find.
More than Hillary Clinton, or more than Hillary hates Diet Coke?
No, more than Hillary Clinton. and then what's really interesting is looking at how he sees the witch hunt, how he sees the investigation against him, how he communicates with people who work for him. You see how the Jeff Sessions tweet is not something that he tweeted in isolation. You start to notice a trend. And so when you put them into categories, you realize that not only is he an interesting president, but I would say he's the most prolific Twitter user we have seen in our lifetimes.
And the interesting thing about the Twitter is, while it's been a perhaps effective use of communication for him to speak directly to his supporters, what happened yesterday in the tweet where he urged Jeff Sessions to end the investigation, as the New York Times put it today, that tweet crossed a line that Mr. Trump has never explicitly crossed until now.
Right.
That it may be in terms of obstruction of justice, where he most directly said on a platform to his tens of millions of followers, essentially urging obstruction of justice.
What's interesting, though, is now we're going to engage in a discussion about should versus would. That's going to be the next. So people say, are you saying should, as in this is what I think you should do, versus what you must do? You must stop the investigation. And then also, I think it's interesting that Donald J. Trump has flipped the script on everybody. He showed us that the things most people would do in private that get them busted, if you do them in public, it's somehow better, which is not how I've ever lived my life. I've never seen an instance where doing something bad in public somehow lets you off the hook.
As a comedian, he gives you an enormous amount of material.
Yes, he does, an embarrassment of riches.
How do you determine where the lines are in
Is anything off limits?
Yes.
Well, I work off what the president says, you know. Unlike most, I go, this is the president of the United States. I don't say he's hashtag not the president, he is. And so I will give him the respect and the attention that he deserves. And so that's what the Twitter Library book is about. It's us looking at the president saying, although many presidents have used speeches and written words to convey their ideas, Donald J. Trump uses his tweets. And so we've decided to acknowledge that in the book and give you context for that.
There are a host of people who say we are too focused on the tweets.
Yeah.
As this is happening, there is regulatory rollback. There are
Right.
changes being made that have
Right.
real significant consequences on healthcare, the environment.
Yes.
But nobody's paying attention to that
Right.
because the tweets are so addictive.
Right, and I say to those people, don't have more than one child, because clearly you cannot focus on more than one thing at the same time. That's what I'm saying to you. Because I think you can focus on what
I
the
only have
president
one
is
child.
saying.
What do you say, Trevor?
You can focus on what the president is saying, and I think you can also focus on what the administration is doing. I don't think the
Right.
two are mutually exclusive. So the idea that we can only look at one thing at the same time is a ludicrous concept to me. I think if you give adequate time, I mean, that's what you do on your show every day.
But I give you a high five there,
because
because I do think you have to cover them. But as journalists, we have to remind ourselves that the original reporting, the investigative reporting, the storytelling that we do is just as important, if more important than ever now.
Right, and that's what we look at on our show as well. We go like, okay.
And that's why your
It's always the fun.
Emmy-nominated show.
Oh, no.
Let's
shucks,
talk
Alex.
about it. First time,
Yes, it's-
outstanding variety show, big time.
It's really exciting. And you know what's funny is credit to the team that made this happen and credit to Jon Stewart who predicted it. He said to me, hey, it's not going to happen in your first year, not going to happen in your second year, but as you get into your third year, it's going to happen. And I said, what if it doesn't? Then he said, oh, then you're a failure.
You're
About
not.
the groove.
You're not.
Trevor Noah, thank you. The Donald J.
Thanks,
Trump
Trevor.
Presidential Twitter Library on sale now, and The Daily Show airs weeknights on Comedy Central. See you soon.